Level 1, $0. The most important thing that happens at this level has nothing to do with money. It has to do with attention. You are 22 years old. You are standing in a bar you stretched your budget to get into. You buy a drink for a woman. She says thank you and walks away. Most men remember this as rejection. It wasn't rejection. Rejection requires evaluation first. What happened was simpler. She didn't evaluate you at all. You were below the threshold where conscious sorting begins. Psychologists call this the minimum viable signal problem. Every person, male and female, has a finite amount of attentional bandwidth. At a crowded bar, a woman will consciously process maybe 4 or 5 men. You didn't make that list. Here's what most 22-year-olds get wrong about that moment. They conclude the problem is money. The problem is not money. The problem is signal clarity. You had no clear signal of anything: competence, direction, humor, confidence, resources, warmth. You were a blank page. Blank pages don't get read. You are about to spend years learning what goes on a blank page. Level 1, $0. You are invisible. Not because of what you lack, because of what you haven't yet communicated. Here's what the research actually says about attraction at this level. A 2010 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that confidence and social ease, not resources, were the primary drivers of initial attraction in low-status environments. Men who displayed calm posture, made deliberate eye contact, and spoke without apology were rated significantly more attractive by women, regardless of what they were wearing or what they were spending. The $14 drink didn't fail because it was $14. It failed because buying a drink for a stranger without social context is a low-signal move. It communicates transaction, not value. At 22, your real capital is not money. It is your energy in a room. Do people orient towards you or away? Your competence signals. Do you talk about what you're building, learning, pursuing? Your social proof. Do other people seem to enjoy your company? None of these require money. You don't know this yet. You think the answer is the next level. You're not entirely wrong. But the men who do best at every level figured out these fundamentals first. The drink was $14. The lesson was free. You weren't ready to take it. Level 2, $25,000. You have a paycheck. You discover it creates options and obligations at the same time. You have a studio apartment, a bank account that holds a balance instead of a countdown, a dating profile. A dating profile is the first time in your life you will be evaluated primarily on proxies rather than presence. She cannot feel your confidence through a screen. She cannot hear your timing. She cannot sense whether the room orients toward you. So she uses proxies: photos, job title, height, the quality of your sentences. This is not manipulation. This is information compression under uncertainty. She is doing exactly what you are doing when you swipe based on photos. Here is a data point worth sitting with. A 2012 OkCupid study of 4 million users found that income had a measurable effect on response rates for men, but only after a baseline salary threshold that corresponded to can sustain independent living. Above that threshold, the marginal effect of additional income on response rates flattened significantly. What continued to matter above the baseline: how you wrote. Message quality, humor, specificity, and the absence of generic openers explained more variance in response rates than income jumps of $20,000 or more. You are at $25,000. You are above the baseline. The tool you are underinvesting in is language. You go on dates. You pay for most of them. You don't resent this yet. You understand it as social convention and as a signal of investment. But you start tracking. You notice that the women who let you pay without any reciprocal gesture, no offer, no later round, no thank you dinner, tend to be the same women who introduce you to their friends as a non-specific figure. This is useful data, not because it makes women villains. It doesn't. It makes them people with options who are allocating attention accordingly. The useful question is not, why isn't she investing in me? The useful question is, am I the kind of person someone would want to invest in? At $25,000, the honest answer for most men is, partially. You are building. That is not a failure. That is the job. Level 3, $100,000. You become legible. For the first time, strangers can quickly decode what you represent. You say the words, software engineer, on a first date, and her posture shifts slightly. Not dramatically. A small change in attentiveness. Here is what is actually happening in that moment. and it is more nuanced than it looks. She isn't calculating your salary. She is updating her model of your trajectory and stability. Evolutionary psychologists call this resource acquisition potential, the perceived capacity to provide security over time, and it consistently ranks among the top mate preference criteria for women across cultures, tracked in studies from David Buss's research spanning 37 countries over decades. But here's what those same studies show that people rarely quote. Resource acquisition potential, ranked differently at different relationship stages. For short-term relationships, women weight physical attractiveness more heavily. For long-term partnerships, resource potential and emotional stability gain weight. The 2-inch lean at the dinner table is not greed. It's her long-term instincts activating in the presence of a new signal. Understanding this doesn't make the observation less real. It makes it less personal. Your ex from the $25,000 era texts you 72 hours after you post a photo of a new car. You notice the timing. You should. But before you write a theory about women, consider this. You have probably also messaged someone you've been ignoring after they posted a photo signaling success. Not because you are calculating, because status visibility changes how the brain processes existing social connections. This is not a character flaw in either of you. It is a documented pattern called reevaluation upon status update, studied extensively in both men and women, and it operates below conscious awareness. What you are learning to read is not women. You are learning to read human social behavior under conditions of information scarcity, which is the condition most people operate in most of the time. The man who understands this clearly will navigate every level better. The man who concludes women are uniquely transactional will misread every relationship he has from here forward. You have a side project. It's getting traction. You have real users, revenue. The woman you are dating listens with genuine curiosity. Her curiosity has a forward-looking quality. She is not just hearing what you've built, she is forming a picture of where this goes. That is not predatory. That is how intelligent people evaluate long-term partnerships. The question is whether you can tell the difference between someone building that picture alongside you and someone building it instead of you. You can't yet, but you are getting closer. Level 4. $500,000 proxies become louder. You start to notice the gap between being seen and being known. You update your dating profile. Same photos, same face, same haircut. You change the job title. Matches increase significantly. You already knew this would happen. You did it partly to confirm the thesis you've been forming. The confirmation arrives. Here is the intellectually honest version of what this data means. It means that on a platform where presence is impossible, people use available signals. Job title is an available signal. It correlates, imperfectly but measurably, with stability, ambition, and compatibility of lifestyle. Women are not wrong to use it. You would use it too. You do use it. You filtered by photos before they filtered by title. Photos are also a proxy. Proxies are how humans navigate uncertainty. What this data cannot tell you, whether the people matching with your new title are a better or worse fit for you than the ones who matched before. That requires actual interaction. Proxies get you to the door. They don't open it. Add a dinner party. The woman you are seeing introduces you as your job title before your name. You feel the professional alphabetization. You file it. It is worth sitting with, not as evidence of her shallowness, but as a signal about the relationship's center of gravity. A woman at a networking event gives you her number without being asked. She asked your company, your role, and your equity structure before she asked your name. You feel attractive for 10 seconds. Then the order of the questions replays. Here is the psychologically precise thing that happened. Her interest was genuine. And it was also primarily transactional. Both of those things are simultaneously true. And holding both without collapsing into cynicism is a skill this level is asking you to develop. The napkin is in your pocket. You don't call. The not calling is not about her. It is the first time you have consciously chosen to distinguish between someone seeing you and someone seeing what you represent. That distinction is going to matter more and more. Level 5, 1 million. The sorting mechanisms become visible. The question becomes, what are you actually sorting for? Before your relationship reaches the next stage, a lawyer is involved. Not because of malice. Because at this asset level, combining lives without legal clarity is statistically correlated with catastrophic outcomes for both parties. The prenuptial agreement, or its equivalent, is the most honest document most couples will ever sign. It is a contract that says, we acknowledge that love and financial entanglement are two separate things that can exist simultaneously and should be managed separately. That is not unromantic. That is adult. What is harder to sit with? The lawyer arrived before you fully decided whether you were in love. The legal architecture of the relationship was under construction before the emotional architecture was complete. This is what money does to the timeline. It accelerates the institutional layer faster than the human layer can catch up. You go to a party in a higher tax bracket. The women here don't ask what you do. That question belongs to a lower level. They ask where you went to school, which fund you're with, who you know in common. Same filtering, different vocabulary. The spreadsheet your ex was running at $25,000 is running in this room too. The software has been upgraded. The function has not. A woman you slept with once, months ago, texts your new number, a number she shouldn't have, to congratulate you on your exit. You think, how did she get this number? You think about the answer for a moment, and then stop thinking about it. The routing of information toward resource concentration is not personal. It is structural. It is the same force that routes venture capital toward proven teams and job applicants toward growing companies. Human beings are information routing systems. High-resource nodes get information routed to them. Your mother calls. She asks when you'll find someone nice. You sit with the word nice for longer than you expect. At $25,000, nice meant kind. At $100,000, nice meant interesting. At $500,000, nice meant ambitious. At $1 million, nice means something you can verify. Here's the problem. You can now afford every proxy for nice. The restaurant, the trip, the gift. What you cannot buy is the data to distinguish warmth that is unconditional from warmth that is contingent on the conditions you've created. This is not a uniquely female problem. Men with inherited wealth report the same disorientation. Men who become famous after marriage describe watching their spouse's behavior shift and not knowing whether the shift was real or their own perception changing. The problem is not that people become transactional at high resource levels. The problem is that you lose the conditions that produce clear data about whether a relationship is genuine. You lose the $14 bar. You lose the environment where buying a drink was a small, honest gesture with no downstream implications. Every gesture now has downstream implications. What you need, and what becomes harder to find with every zero added to your net worth, is a context in which the downstream implications are small enough that you can see the person clearly. Level 6. $10 million. You have enough that you can no longer tell who would be here without it. This is the real loneliness. Not the absence of people, but the absence of certainty. You date a woman who has her own money, real money. For the first time in years, some of the fog lifts. The financial dynamic is closer to neutral. She doesn't need your resources. The transaction hypothesis for once has less purchase. Then she introduces you at dinner as your portfolio. Not intentionally cruel. Probably not even conscious. But the word lands. Even at parity, the appraisal continues. Because the appraisal is not only about resources. It is about social capital, trajectory, and network access. At $10 million, you represent all three in quantities that are hard to disentangle from you as a person. A 2020 study from the London School of Economics, examining ultra-high net worth individuals and relationship satisfaction, found that above $8 million in liquid assets, the most common reported relationship complaint was not infidelity or conflict. It was the perceived inability of partners to see them as individuals rather than categories. The category is CTO, founder, portfolio, network mode. The individual is the person who is invisible at $14 and is still, at the core, trying to figure out whether the glass ever comes back. An ex sends a congratulatory email after a magazine feature. 6 sentences, professionally worded. You read the subtext correctly. I left too early. You do not reply, and you are aware, with some discomfort, that you wanted her to receive the silence, that the silence is a kind of power you are choosing to exercise. This is worth examining honestly. The emotional dynamic you're navigating is not just women sorting you. You are also sorting. You are now choosing who gets access to you, who gets a response, who gets a meeting. You have become a gatekeeper too. The question is, are you gatekeeping for genuine reasons? Compatibility, intention, mutual investment? Or are you now making the same transactional calculations you resented on the other side? Level 7. $100 million. You become a public figure. The relationship between who you are and how you are perceived inverts. A tabloid runs a photo of you at an event with your cousin. The caption calls her your mystery companion. Your phone lights up with messages from people you know checking the story. Some are concerned. Some are curious. One is your actual girlfriend, who saw it before you did. You have arrived at a level where your private life has a public narrative that you did not write and cannot fully correct. This is not unique to wealthy men. Anyone with a public profile, athletes, politicians, academics with media visibility, experiences the same dissociation. The public story and the private reality diverge, and both become real in different domains. Before your next relationship begins, your attorney presents an NDA. She signs it without comment. You ask if it bothered her. She says it's normal at this level. You sit with the word normal for an hour. A legal document that converts intimacy into contractual language before the first dinner is factually normal at this level. 17 of the 20 wealthiest individuals in the world had NDAs signed by long-term partners before those relationships formalized. This is not folklore. This is documented practice. What the NDA cannot do is resolve the deeper question. Does the contract protect the relationship, or does it replace the trust that would have made protection unnecessary? The honest answer is, it does both simultaneously, and you will never fully separate them. A woman pursues you openly at an event. She is, by any observable measure, extraordinarily attractive. She was clearly well prepared for the conversation. You understand exactly what is happening. You go along with it anyway. Here is the psychologically honest account of why. You know the mechanism, but knowing the mechanism does not neutralize the feeling. Attraction is not conditional on authenticity of intent. This is one of the more uncomfortable truths about human desire. What you are learning to live with is the gap between the feeling and the data. The feeling says, she finds you compelling. The data says, she researched you before walking over. Both are real. Neither cancels the other. Your 8-year-old niece asks at a family dinner why you always have a different lady at things. Your sister is laughing. You are not. The child's vocabulary is the most precise you will encounter in years. Different lady at things is more accurate than anything your publicist has produced. You don't have an answer that fits in a child's vocabulary, because the honest answer is complicated. That at this level, the social architecture selects against the conditions that produce long-term attachment. And you have not yet found a way to rebuild those conditions inside an environment that was not designed for them.